All right, so let's begin. Uh, we have This is our fourth part, as we told you last time. This is the last one in this series, but don't be disappointed. We are planning a new series of webinars soon. You will be informed in a short while. We are very excited to have Aaron again on our webinars. Welcome, Aaron. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For those who don't know Aaron, which I believe will be a very minuscule number, Aaron Thompson is the general partner at SuccessHACKER, the leading provider of customer success enablement and education. And he has been in the customer success domain for over 20 years, helping enterprises power their growth from the customer asset. And Aaron, how's your family doing? How's your son and your dog?
Yeah, good question. So my son's doing great. They're starting to figure out the online schooling here in the Portland area finally. And so he's got his schedule and his classwork, and it's all online, and they're moving away from A's, B's, C's to just a pass fail, which for a fourth grader, not really a big deal. The seniors in high school, that can impact as they look to go to university next year.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily he's young enough, it doesn't matter. So he's thriving in this whole thing, enjoying it as much as I think a 9-year-old can. And then as far as the dog, he's fat. He's just getting really fat. The poor guy, like, I can't get him out running enough. And he used to go, he'd lose all his weight when I was on the road. I traveled so much that he'd go to a border and he'd play with other dogs all day. And then he'd sleep and play, and I'd come back and he'd lose weight, and then I'd be home for a few weeks and he'd put on a little bit. So that poor dog, he's put on a lot more than I think he probably wishes he has. But I think that means he's happy. I think he's a happy, fat and happy guy right now.
Yeah, Chris says fat and happy is the way to live for a dog.
There you go.
Lovely.
Yeah, Chris. Exactly.
Chris, I hope you. I know, Aaron, the way you describe the dog life, at least I'm feeling jealous.
Yeah, he goes on sort of like a crash diet, and then he gets to lay around and eat and do nothing when I'm home. And then he goes back and he plays with these dogs all the time. But all the borders are closed. I can't even do like daytime stuff. So he's stuck with me, and I tend to be seated right here doing, this, looking into this camera all day long. I'm sure you don't understand it at all.
Poor dog has to take a customer success lecture all day.
Yeah, he's stuck here.
Yeah, now I'm not so jealous.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, our webinar host for the day, Puneet, the CEO of Customer Success Box. And I think I'm going to just hand it over to Puneet and Aaron to start this off.
Very lovely. Thank you so much, Nilesh. And Nilesh, for those of you who don't know, heads marketing for Customer Success Box. And he's been the person behind, frankly, me and Aaron, we just show up, and Aaron, of course, has to pull out time from a busy schedule. I just have these 2 monitors behind me just to show that I'm very busy, and it's all confidential, so you can't see it. But Nilesh is the one who sort of makes sure that, as a community, we all get together and do something useful in this week. So thank you Nilesh for making this happen, and thank you so much, Aaron, jokes apart, from joining. It's always a pleasure to see your videos, to see all the education, both in your on-demand courses, in-person courses, but the glimpses that we get on your YouTube videos, in the LinkedIn videos. And we could just never get enough of those. So we thought, what's the best way to trap you here for an hour-long conversation? And here we are.
I'm really happy to be here, and we love our partnership with Customer Success Box. So thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, fantastic. So quickly setting the stage. So what the agenda for today is going to be, this is our 4th webinar in the series of 4 webinars. And like Nilesh mentioned, there's more coming, and you'll sort of stay tuned to hear more. So this is the 4th one. The first one, we spoke about customer success strategy. The second one, we spoke about a lot of retention tools like discountings and all of those stuff. In the third one, we spoke a lot about playbooks, how you're going to use those discounting, all those retention tools and strategy, and how do you translate that into playbooks? How do you segment accounts and how do you reach out, communication tactics, and all of that stuff. This webinar, so I think we covered a lot of stuff in the first three, but here I think we're going to go down to some very fundamental basics. In the scenario, the COVID lockdown driven world that we all live in today, while we all have the task at hand to retain our customers, to drive MRR, and to make sure we are in business and we keep delivering success for our customers, I think we can, at a very, very simple level, there are a whole bunch of do's and don'ts, which I think are a unique set of do's and don'ts. I will not say they're not applicable outside of this scenario. They're always applicable, but I think they're more applicable today, and the priority of what do's we need to emphasize on and what don'ts we want to absolutely be aware of, that we don't want to make those mistakes today. So this webinar is divided into do's and don'ts of customer success in the situation of a pandemic and a lockdown that we all are living in. And as we are slowly, coming out of it, and we want to come out of it together, I thought as a community, let's just walk through those do's and don'ts. So Aaron and I got together earlier, and we've just put together a list of about 10 do's and 10 don'ts. And we're going to just quickly walk through them, spending about a couple of minutes on each one of them. We might end up spending less or more, but knowing Aaron and his depth of knowledge, I think we will definitely run out of time. So I'll try to stay as close to 2 minutes so that we can cover the content. While we are doing this, Nilesh will absolutely be watching all the chat. So let's just keep this conversational. He's the one representing everybody else. Whatever you're going to chat, Nilesh, keep chiming in to bring in and represent everybody who's otherwise cannot sort of come on the video, but can absolutely chat. So let's keep this two-way, everyone, and let's have some fun, build some relationship as we learn. Are we good to go? Perfect. So the first do, Aaron, that's the first do is leading with empathy. I would say not just leading with empathy, but I think to just even develop a context of the situation that you're dealing with, the customer you're about to call, or the customer you are impacting on a daily basis. Empathy is the best sort of a way to understand, put yourself in the shoes of the others. What do you have to say?
Yeah, before we jump into that do, I want to kind of start with my biggest don't, which I heard this, a dear friend of mine, as this was all starting to hit the fan, sent me a text that said, "Never waste a good crisis." And so I thought, boy, that seems awfully negative. That's a really sort of capitalistic, taking advantage of the situation kind of thing. And so I Googled it, and it's a well-known adage, never waste a good crisis. And it's not about capitalizing or taking advantage. It's about identifying that this is a really unique period of time. And with that unique period of time, it creates additional opportunities, different opportunities. And so rather than seeing this as a negative, there's a whole lot of negative out there. If we look at this crisis as an opportunity, not to be capitalistic, but to leverage, because we're all going through something similar together. So my first do, lead with empathy, is universal. We should always do that in customer success. But when you think about it relative to this current economic crisis and health crisis that is unprecedented, and we look at this as an opportunity and we don't waste this opportunity, what can we do differently? How can we behave differently when we talk about leading with empathy today that wouldn't have maybe made any sense 6 months ago and might not make any sense 6 months from now? What is this, what are the unique opportunities during this crisis to lead with empathy differently, or even in a more emphatic way? So as we look at that as like our first do, I want to kind of keep in mind the first don't waste this. Use this as an opportunity to bond with your customers in a different way. You're experiencing something with your customers now that you never could have before. this was never an opportunity. This never would have been the case where everybody in the entire world is experiencing something that they've never had before. I mean, what an amazing opportunity this crisis creates for us to drive deeper relationships and be more empathetic with our customers. So think of it that way. As we talk through this, I would encourage the audience and anybody, yeah, please, let's have a chat and, two-way conversation around, let's not waste this crisis, and let's drive a level of relationship and empathy with our customers that we never could have before.
No, that's a very good point. And I think the other day you were talking about how we end up living in the average because our expectations are so constrained in good times, but only when when we are on push to the extreme is when I think you'll either become you'll sort of you'll become best friends forever, or you'll end up not going forward at all. And I think more often than not, whenever you are willing to understand the other person and having a conversation, that sort of absolutely gives you that opportunity to understand. So another way I will put this is, see, COVID is temporary. COVID is going to go away. Yes, we can all argue whether it's going to be it's going away in days, weeks, or months or quarters, and hopefully a lot sooner, days and weeks, and not months and quarters. But COVID, nonetheless, we all agree is temporary. But the impact, the relationship, the emotion, I think the memories that is going to leave behind, that's going to be permanent. And I think this is one of the ways to probably what Aaron, you're suggesting is, let's build relationships which are going to be permanent while this opportunity or window, or the window of opportunity which is opened up is temporary. So that.
Yeah, and then around the empathy, right? The difference between sympathy and empathy. Brene Brown is a published author, amazing leader in the arena, in a bunch of different arenas, but she has a phenomenal TED Talk about this difference between sympathy and empathy, and how as humans, we oftentimes think we're being empathetic when we're actually in fact being sympathetic. And it's a very big difference, because when you're being sympathetic, you're feeling sorry for someone, and maybe it breaks your heart, but you're not living it with them. Empathetic, you're living it with them. You've either already lived it, and so you genuinely know what they're going through, or you are actually going through it at the same time with them. That's empathy. And so if we want to talk about leading with empathy and not wasting a good crisis, what a great opportunity this crisis creates for us to create and literally not be sympathetic to what our customers are going through, but empathetic, because we're all going through it together. We're all learning how to be teachers at home and while working at home, and have dogs and life and cramming, right? The dining room table is now the office, and all of these things that we all have to figure out. That never happened. It's never been easier to be empathetic with your customers than it is right now. And I think we want to be really clear about that. That's what we want to take advantage of, is this chance to live this universal human experience that is just unprecedented.
Yeah, and I think, and because all of us are not just customer success managers or customer success leaders, or in the situation where we are representing our brand, our business in front of our customers, we are also customers, and we are going through exactly the same thing. So sort of, I think it's a lot more easier to be empathetic. It's a lot more effortless, because you are living the exact same crisis as your customers, which is usually not the case. No, good point. So I think one of the don'ts that I wanted to touch upon was, do not treat this as business as usual. While this looks so obvious, but I think we absolutely wanted to call this out, was this is definitely not business as usual, and that basically applies to everything that you have been doing. Whatever A to Z, whatever your plan was, whatever practices you were following, whatever org structure you had, I think everything should be, at least you should be open to revisiting it and seeing if that is becoming either an enabler or a blocker, and how can you revisit that? How would you take that? So Aaron, clearly not business as usual, but what can someone do to sort of adapt to the situation?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and I think we've probably all experienced emails or LinkedIn connection requests, or even like television commercials, especially at the beginning of this crisis, where it was like, I hope your Q1 is going well. I hope this email finds you well, which I went on a rant a few years ago about that opening line. I just hate that in general. It's just completely valueless, lazy, nothing personal about me as the receiver. And I get like, back a couple of years ago, I was getting, it seemed like every email started with that. I hope this finds you well. That being said, all of that falls so flat right now. Your messaging is so flat right now if you're talking about business as usual. And it took a while for ad agencies and marketing companies and big business to catch up, but there's virtually no commercials right now that are running on US television, at least, that aren't COVID specific, right? It took them a while to get the B-roll and get the production and get it out there, but they're all talking about this window that is temporary, to your point. This won't last forever, yet if we pretend like it's not happening, it falls so deaf for our clients and for our prospects. We have to be really in tune. So what does that mean? That can mean a lot of different things. Depending on your business and your customer's industry, that could mean a whole lot of stuff, whether that's readdressing how you're going to handle renewals, price discounts. In our case, giving stuff away for free. SuccessHACKER, our mission is to help people get into and thrive within the customer success industry. And so right now, when there's so many people out of work, I mean, amazing statistics, like 800,000 people lost their job in the worst month of the Great Recession in the United States. 3 to 7 million people are losing their job every week during this crisis. I mean, it's just unprecedented. And so there's all these people that are looking for jobs, looking for their next opportunity. And a lot of them would like to either pivot into technology from the service industry, restaurants and bars and things like that, where they were working with customers, but they don't have that computer science degree and probably have never heard of customer success. That's a great person for us to get on our platform for free. Get on here, learn about it. And if we can help you get into customer success, or if you're already in it, if we can help you thrive within this industry, it's going to be better for everybody. We're all about the rising tides raise all boats. And so for us, that's literally how it's changed. I manage a lot of our outbound prospecting and connecting and brand awareness. And I completely shifted our messaging from here's where I'm going to be flying to over the next 6 months, see if you can come join us, to here's how we're doing it now virtually, see if you can come join us, to here's 50% off for these things, see if you can come join us, to here's a job listing, here's a Pledge 1 program you can apply for if you've been negatively affected by COVID. Here are some resources that you can use. Please help us spread the word. And you can imagine how much more positive the response is from people right now in this temporary window when we're not selling anything. We are just giving it away. We're trying to let people know what we're doing and how they can get involved. And that is a complete shift from any like business model, right? But we firmly believe as this blows over, when we get to the end of this, whatever the new reality looks like, people are going to remember the companies that supported them when they were down. We all do. I know I was on unemployment, luckily. I got laid off. It was actually 4 years ago this Sunday. I went to lunch, came back 1:30 in the afternoon. My VP's like, hey, Aaron, come on in here real quick. What's up? Well, we're going to have to let some people go. I'm like, oh, no. So I take out my notepad, right? And all right, because I was managing a team, a support team. And I'm, all right, this sucks, but who do I need to let go? Oh, no, we're letting you go. And I was just floored, stunned. Had never been without a job since I was 14 years old. I had always had some kind of a job. And so I didn't even know what to do. I didn't even know where to begin. And I did reach out to a whole lot of people during that time. And I still 4 years later remember the ones who helped me out, and they will always have a place in my heart. Same thing with our businesses today. There's unprecedented amount of people that need help out there. And again, don't waste a good crisis. Help them. Do whatever you can. Get beyond your product and services and start to deepen the relationship, even if it's helping them find a job or get connected on LinkedIn or just whatever we can do to help our humankind right now as we all go through this unprecedented experience.
No, I think that's a great example, and especially the way you are sort of described and how you are yourself putting plans and strategies for SuccessHACKER and the messaging, the way you've changed. So in fact, before I go to the next do, in fact, let's do the do and then we'll continue. So the next do is understand your customer's situation. I think one of the things that we've been continuously talking about was how can you do business scenario modeling for your customers? How can you not just empathize with them emotionally as sort of what feelings they're going through, but beyond that, stepping in, stepping in their shoes to understand what business challenges are they facing, and how can you help them? How can your technology, your product, your service help them? And how can you be more relevant than because the situation is not normal. How can you be more relevant today? And I think for that, understanding the challenges of customers are sort of absolutely important. So Aaron, let's pick up from the example. Why did you went all the way to actually going from offering and inviting people to your paid classes and courses, and they're worth every penny and more? I've always told you you're over discounting that. I've taken that myself, so I can speak out of experience.
Andrew would agree with you for sure. Yeah.
There you go. But what? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, so how do we move from that kind of traditional prospecting to, hey, here's a job posting, and here's what we're doing from a discount. Here's a way to get into our platform for free even. Well, how we moved that far was by listening to the market. The price point went out the window. Like, it didn't matter. All of a sudden, the price point went from whatever the market was willing to pay for our classes and courses to zero, because a lot of the people that we sell to are direct to consumer, and a lot of them lost their job. And so what can we do? How can we at scale, right? And it's a two-way street. I'm not advocating for just giving away a bunch of professional services or your time, a bunch of time, like those types of things are like, time is the most valuable resource. Like, none of us will ever be able to make more time. We can always make more money, never make more time, right? So for every human, that's the thing that matters the most. But what can you do? Either a little bit of that, or maybe something with a product, right? And so we're lucky that we had begun building this online platform years ago so that we had something that we could offer at scale to people and companies who have gone through transformations, I'll call them, in the last month or two, very drastic transformations. We can with our product, and it plays right into helping people, right? It's education, it's training. So we're kind of uniquely positioned to help during this time. But how we learned about it, how we stayed relevant, how we understood our customers' situation was just by talking to them. I mean, we've got to have these conversations with our customers to understand, what are they doing? How are their customers doing? And then we got to get creative. We can't just, well, we've never done it that way, or it's always cost this, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. What used to be is no more. And we're in a whole new world right now. And we don't know how long this temporary situation is going to last. And no one really anticipates that it's ever going to go back the way that it was. Like, life in certain ways is forever going to be changed because of COVID. And so getting more relevant as soon as possible, the only way that I know to do that is to talk to your customers, talk to your prospects, talk to your market, and figure out where they're at. And for us, that's where they were at. That's not to mean we don't like enterprise clients, and I'm not doing coaching. I've got a big old whiteboard over there. I was up this morning at 6 coaching a client, and you know, we're doing that part of our business. That part still exists in places, but generally speaking, SMB, even growth stage B2B SaaS companies, a lot of them have been hit pretty hard. And for us, if we stick to our mission and vision of helping people get into and thrive within customer success, and I'm talking to a CSM who just lost their job, or a bartender who wants to become a CSM, or anybody else for that matter who's interested in customer success, that price point's pretty darn low right now. They're trying to figure out how they're going to get a job, or get that unemployment, or get the PPP check, or you know, all the different things we're kind of using to try to make ends meet right now. And if we come in and try to sell them, it's not going to work. You know, now we're being capitalistic in the wrong way. But if we just kind of try to come in and try to help them however we can with our products and services, now we're in a different kind of taking advantage or capitalizing. We're not capitalizing for gain, we're capitalizing for their gain. But to know where that lies and what that looks like, you got to talk to them. You got to get on the phone with your customers.
No, absolutely. I think that's probably the most powerful way of empathizing, is by understanding what they're going through, and basically by getting on a call with your customers. And that takes me to the next don't, which is, there is no way you want to continue to rely on your old plan, old strategy, or even old goals and objectives. And I think, Aaron, you spoke about that while you might be, you were lucky to be in a situation where you had an on-demand offering, which you were able to quickly, became more relevant in these times. But a lot of us, a lot of probably listeners, are caught in a scenario where they were sort of relevant in a growing market and in the situation today. And especially if you are serving hospitality, if you're serving travel and tourism and all of those stuff, then you're completely, I think everybody's initial reaction was a state of shock that, okay, now how am I being relevant? And this is where I've used one example earlier in my earlier conversations as well, where I think, first of all, stepping back as an organization and saying, okay, what do I want to achieve? And how can I deliver? So what do I want to achieve will be a question of what is going to be my objective in the next, while this COVID scenario is there. Now, some of our businesses might be in a situation that, let's switch from generating revenue to building a brand value. Some businesses can afford that. Some businesses can be nimble and you can control costs. The other businesses may not be in those situations. But I think one thing that we absolutely want to do is do an internal business model scenario as to where we are headed. What knobs and levers do we have to play with? And the ones, what are their limits and ranges that we can, sort of move them to, and where it might just break. And then tying it back to your customer situation, like you mentioned. So one of the quick examples that I want to give, and I'll invite more examples from you and Aaron, was I had a gym membership, and I still have that. They were a gym, and gyms all of a sudden overnight out of business world over. And these guys were able to pivot really quickly and come out with a live gym sort of an app which basically offered me a live class. Now, clearly, while the gyms are closed, that doesn't mean I do not want to exercise. So while the restaurants are closed, that doesn't mean people don't want to eat. So what are the creative ways, and you can still be relevant and quickly adapting to that? I think by not relying on your old plan strategies, not relying on your old roadmap. So one of the biggest things that we've been talking about is whatever you were building, whatever roadmap you had, I think throw it out of the window and revisit the roadmap, because the world that you're going to wake up to, even post-COVID, is not going to be the same. So what do you say, Aaron, to any more examples, any more comments on this?
Yeah, I think back to the adage of don't waste a good crisis, great opportunity to be innovative. And those that are innovative, like your gym, for example, will not only retain customers better than those that aren't, but they're actually going to reposition themselves in their customers' mind. They're going to now have a deeper relationship because, you know what, my gym's pretty cool. They came out with this mobile thing when I couldn't get to the gym, versus the gym down the street, they just shuttered their doors and went away, So I think becoming innovative in a new way is really the critical component to that. And that probably does mean at least putting your expected roadmap on hold, and maybe doing some resource allocation in some new ways. That all starts with voice of the customer, feedback mechanisms, and listening to the market, and they'll, to figure out what matters to them. If our North Star in customer success is that formula, right? CS equals CO plus CX. So the customer's definition of success equals the customer's desired outcome plus the customer's desired experience. Well, we all know the experience has changed. Desired or otherwise, your experience with your gym had to change because they couldn't operate in the normal capacity. But your outcome remained the same. You wanted to use the gym. You wanted to use you wanted to exercise. So their innovative approach to changing the CX meant they didn't have to change the CO. They didn't have to go to you and find out, what do you want, Mr. Customer? They knew you want to be in the gym, but you can't right now. All right, so then what can we do over here on the CX side to still deliver that CO? That's true innovation. And that CO might change also, right? With our customers and with many people on the call, I would imagine what matters to them has changed. What they care about has changed. And so that means the CO has changed. We have to change to that as well. If we continue to map to the old definition of success, and even if we deliver on that, it may not even matter right now to them, because they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with. Like if you're in the airline industry or hotels, right, etc., Lyft, Uber, I mean, they're all huge layoffs this week. Airbnb, the people that are working there and the people that they service, their customers, have completely changed. What their desired outcome is completely different than it was 2 months ago. So one way or the other, innovate. Maybe don't throw the roadmap out, but at least put a pause on it and start developing and focusing, because we have to be maniacally focused on that customer's desired outcome. And if that's shifting, what we're doing has to be shifting as well. If we're going to do effective customer success management, that's our job. That's the whole point, is to deliver and demonstrate that value. And what is valuable is very different today than it was before.
Yes, I think that the last point is absolutely nails it. So moving on, and I'm going to speed up now. Nilesh, anything you want to bring in, feel free to come in.
Well, I've been having an interesting chat with a lot of people, and we are getting some great ideas out there. Sangeeta says you could pivot your roadmap to roll out features that will help them address today's business requirements. Maybe new reports, easy to use remote features, etc.
That's a good one. In fact, what I'll even extend this to be, if you can really brainstorm, go back in that Zen mode and take those deep breaths and really brainstorm with the customers and think through it. And if we can envision the world which we are all going to wake up to, and if you can pivot your roadmap to the to be scenario, that is when I would say you've nailed it. So it's just, I just ended up speaking it slowly, not to being dramatic, but I think that is going to be real innovation. So I think we need to be absolutely, with every data point that you can get hold of, every ounce of inputs that you can get, which can help you predict the world which lies ahead of us, for you, for your customers. And if you can be prepared for that, I think will be the best use of resources today. But good points, Sangeeta. Nilesh,
I'll keep interrupting you once I get questions, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, Aaron. You spotted something.
I was just I'm trying to dig it out of the chat. I think it said customer success. The economy is stalled, but customer success creates the relationship economy. There it is. The economy may be stalled, but CS can help develop a relationship economy, from Stephen Sherry. I think that's a really good point. That's exactly what I was kind of alluding to earlier. This is an opportunity to create a relationship or provide value in a way that you never have. And those that do that effectively will be the winners when we do wake up to that day that Puneet was referring to. And those that don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next one is very tactical, but I think a lot of us who are in the customer success space, still fighting the retention war from the trenches. You need a retention plan handy. So this is one of the absolute do's. What do you have to say about that, Aaron? You don't want to be, winging it because the situation you're facing is absolutely completely different, and you should have better gone back to those war rooms and come out with a plan that is going to sort of is going to be tested, of course, every day, but you still have a plan.
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to the adage in customer success around plays and playbooks, right? We always want standardization in the organization, so that not because we think it's right, but because it's the way we're all going to do it, so that we can iterate and improve it. And then we all do it that way, and then we iterate and improve it. And so the plays and playbooks are always changing. They better be, or else you're missing an opportunity. And this just, I think, creates a new need for that. And to be effective at that, to like a retention plan, for example, you got to be really agile, right? This wasn't something that we could have planned for, and certainly most of us did not. So now what do? How quickly can we standardize some sort of a retention strategy across the organization, probably hopefully predicated on your customer segmentation, and you have some high, low tech or platinum, gold, silver, 1, 2, 3, whatever, but your most valuable customers, your middle, and then maybe the ones that are long tail, SMB, early stage, whatever it might be, direct to consumer, freemium model, the ones that have less touch, right? And you're executing all of this intentionally so that you're focusing and testing your retention activities, not probably at the most valuable of accounts until you've worked out a few bugs or bumps, I should say, and then you are focusing on those to retain those because they're more vertical, strategic, industry, ideal for your product, obviously pay you more revenue. Whatever criteria you use to do your segmentation should come into how you're approaching this retention playbook. But then, yeah, I mean, it's just, like you said, it's going to get tested every day. Yeah, it should be changing every day as well as we're having these new experiences with our customers.
So I think one of the good ideas, that has come out in some of our conversations or with the variety of leaders here has been one of the ways to segment customers will be to go by their impact that this COVID crisis is having on their business. Maybe all your customers fall in the same bucket if you were serving just a single industry, but a lot of us are also sort of cut across industries, and not every customer being affected the same way. So you may want to have a different plan for somebody who's affected more deeply, and versus there might be some who are hopefully affected positively as well, and are seeing like a lot of tailwind because of customers because of the COVID crisis. And one of the don'ts, while you are having this retention plan handy, you don't want to hit the ground bringing every, for example, request for, we can't pay the same amount, or we have to renegotiate, or we have to downgrade. You better have a plan handy, and I think keeping that retention playbook is going to be very, very handy when you're dealing with it. But while you're doing that, I think your own targets as a customer success leader, as a customer success department, or even as an entire organization should be not the old ones. You have to come back and revisit your own goals and KPIs and targets and say, those ones are not relevant anymore because that was a different time. And we need to revisit that and set these up. Again, I'm not suggesting they need to be lowered. It purely depends on the kind of impact that you're having. You might be serving a type of industry which is struggling to renew the contracts. On the other hand, you might also be serving an industry which is actually overwhelmed with orders. So while you may want to, cut some slack and maybe offer a free extension for the ones who are struggling, while trying to increase the, orders and then revenue from the ones. So that's just an idea, but do not stick to your old targets, your old KPIs, revisit them, put them realistically. I am always a fan of having the number because it forces you to, think based on some logic, no matter how good or bad the hypothesis is. But running without one is, you will not know whether you're doing good or wrong, good or not so good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's a really good point, Puneet, that not all customers are going to be negatively affected by this crisis, right? If I service a customer and they are a face mask manufacturing company, their business is booming right now. And so what does that mean from a desired outcome, right? Again, we want to be maniacally focused on that CO and that formula. Their outcome, their desired outcome, and probably their desired experience have shifted. And now it's probably like growth and strategic time. Maybe they're overwhelmed with orders. And so how can you help them service those, keep the supply chain running so that they can deliver on all of those POs, et cetera, whatever, as opposed to another client that travel industry decimated, going to be the opposite. But either way, you got to change the numbers. You got the world is different. And so I actually, about a month ago, when this was just about 4 weeks in, I sat in on a Modern Sales Pros webinar that was all about shifting your quota. Like, how do you change your number today? Because they knew like this, for the foreseeable future, this is not going to be business as usual. But I think you have a really good point that it's not all going to go down. Some of it's going to go up. Some companies are, booming because of this crisis. And so how do you manage that? That's just a different kind of stress. And how do you help them with that pain point as well?
And like, even if you look at an extreme example of, for example, travel, so whenever the travel is going to open up, I think there will be business related travel where they will be willing to pay double, triple the fare because of the business reasons. But on the other hand, you will have, very human driven travel, or for humanitarian reason, people would want to travel. And, if I was running an airline, I will sort of completely subsidize the human related travel, people who are traveling because of personal reasons, and majority of those might be under, dire situations. On the other hand, you've got businesses who want to, cut that multi-million-dollar deal, which has been stuck because of, this travel blocker, and they might be willing to pay a lot more. And I think a well-balanced show. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not sure you have all the tools for it, but thinking a little bit more creatively might, I think, help you get through it better. So moving on, I think one of another do's that we've sort of touched upon, so we can quickly go through this, is be relevant. You might have been the number one absolute, at what you were doing, what your technology product service was providing, but is that the need today? And interestingly, for example, the gym membership that we use, just around the corner, you should be able to find that how can you be relevant still today in this situation, the new constraints which have been applied to the world. What do you say? And the connected don't was don't expect to upsell. While you might become relevant today, if the same gym membership reached out to me saying that, hey, while our gyms are closed, sorry, government regulation, but now you have to pay more for getting this online class, I don't know how I would have reacted. I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but Aaron, your thoughts. Be relevant, but don't expect to upsell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that's so product specific. How relevant my product and services are today is, that's totally dependent on the industry. I think, like Customer Success Box, you guys are in a unique position because you do have a product that is completely vertical agnostic. You can sell into any industry. Every industry has customers, whether they're on a repeatable revenue SaaS model or not. They want their customers to buy their thing more than once. Almost every business, that's the case, right? You need repeat customers. And so helping businesses service to that, it's always going to be relevant. You know, it's seemingly recession proof, as they say. But other industries are not. So my girlfriend, for example, she sells capital equipment to dental offices, right? And in the United States, they closed all dental offices. And in her territory, it was for 3 months. It was an entire quarter. The governor says, you're done. Nothing but emergency dental procedures. And so for her to go in and try to sell into one of these dental offices who had to lay off all of their staff, try to drive all of the overhead as low as possible, hunker down, right? They don't have capital to be investing in their equipment, even if they know they need to. And so what she's done is got outside the sale. She's just started to help. And it's she's a dental industry consultant at this point, basically. And she can help these dentists be strategic with what's coming and how to come out of this stronger, what to do in the short term for now, and start positioning their business to be ready to thrive afterwards. So it gets into that, like taking a consultative approach. We teach that as part of our level 1 certification, and understanding how to do that with your clients becomes more and more important right now, because it's not a matter of product features and functions that are really going to matter to them right now. It's going to be other stuff, and understanding how to ask the open-ended questions to really get to the why of what they're looking to do and accomplish. It becomes critical. That's how we stay relevant. That's like it's about getting outside the sale. Just try to help this human. You know, the thing I love about customer success, right? I've been an account manager. I've been in customer service my whole life. The thing I love about being the CSM and working in this industry is account management is about the account. It's about the business. And I am quoted and expected to grow that account. And if the person on the other end of the phone call at the customer gets in my way of that, I can go around them or over them or through them to do that, because that's my job. And it's an important job. It's not a bad job. It's important for us. And it's, frankly, if it's done correctly, it would be important for our customers. But their allegiance lies with the account. In customer success, it's about the human. Our allegiance lies with that person and making that person's life better. And when we do that through the use of our products and services and by the relationship that we have with them, we can make them so wildly successful. That's what leads to retention, expansion, ultimately the CSQLs, the customer success qualified lead, right? An advocate is really what that is. When a customer of ours gets us a net new customer because they're at a meetup or in a community, or they're at dinner with their family and they say, I tell you what, I couldn't live without SuccessHACKER. And their colleague says, who's SuccessHACKER? Oh, check them out. Okay. That customer success qualified lead is priceless. That's how we save the acquisition cost. We generate net new revenue. That's the golden ticket to exponential growth. And we can do that effectively today. It just has to be different. It has to, again, to be relevant, it's going to shift, right? What matters to them today is different than what it was yesterday. And it's going to always shift. This isn't anything new. As customers achieve their desired outcomes, their next goals are different. And it's always been our job in customer success to make them consistently successful enough, wildly successful, that they couldn't imagine their life without us. That's how we stay relevant, is get outside the sale, get outside the box, get, roadmap like we talked about, and really get close enough to your customer to understand what their new desired outcome is and how you can help them.
Oh, very, very interesting, the way you put it. I like that. The next and we are sort of running short of time, so I'll try to pick up pace as much as I can. So the next one, actually, we've already covered, revisit your product roadmap, and I think we spoke about it. So moving on to the next don't is going to be, do not automate without validating at an individual level, with at least a sample customer base. So I think my point being, yes, we always want to, we absolutely want to, a lot of us are serving SMB markets and, how should I put it? Low ARPA, large volume customers where we are not used to delivering a human touch point for every communication or every help. But rather we actually deliver customer success by automation at scale. Now, the crisis is going to force you to, come out with new strategies and stuff. And while we are going to automate them to reach out to the masses that we serve, I think good idea will still be to go back and validate on a sample of accounts. You obviously, if you have to serve, let's say 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 50,000 customers, you cannot do that. You don't have the bandwidth to do that, but you definitely want to pull out 10, 15, 30 customers where you want to make sure that you reach out with the same message and see whether it's working or is that what you want. What's been your experience, Aaron? You think if somebody is dealing with the kind of scale where automation is the only way they can approach it, they obviously then cannot be so human. And while some of the human touch points will be a lot more effective where we can customize it, but how should they approach this?
Yeah,
any tips there?
I think it's very similar to any time we implement a marketing automation platform, a customer success technology platform, anything that helps us navigate a one-to-many. We have to be really careful before we unleash it on all of the many, right? It can be a very powerful tool for good and for bad. If you go into a marketing automation deployment and you're going to send this email out to 10,000 people, and you don't have effective marketing automation strategy and brand awareness and that understanding, it's not going to work. It's going to be a big tool that makes a big impact in a very negative way. And the same thing is true. I think that's always the case in customer success. As the desired outcomes evolve, there are certain pain points that your customers use you for. There is a value proposition that your business has. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to sell it. You wouldn't have any customers in the first place. We'd have a whole different conversation. Assuming we know that value proposition, we should be able to identify how that value prop changes in COVID versus pre-COVID. And we should hopefully know which new outcomes align with our product's value proposition that we can alleviate. What are the pain points that we can solve today? And we should be able to use that messaging at scale, just like I would in a one-to-one situation. It's just a matter of looking at data, big data a lot of times, to understand those shifts so that you can be strategic with how you're going to do that reaching out and what those outcomes and objectives look like today that didn't exist maybe yesterday. So, I love to start small before you go big, but even beyond that, anytime you're dealing in one-to-many, it's all about data and trends and personas. It's not, I can't have a conversation like this with 10,000 customers. I can with some of them, but not all 10,000. So what do we do for the rest of those? That comes down to trending and data analytics.
Oh, good point. Good point. Moving on to one of the do's is going to be adapt your business to align with the changing, customer experience and customer outcomes. I think you touched upon it, and an equivalent, don't will be mistake all of 2020 for COVID. You want to cover both these do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I'll just jump to the don't because I think we've talked a lot about
we've touched about
stay in touch with your customers, changing definition of success. But the don't mistake all of 2020 for COVID is really to keep us in mind that this isn't forever. The more innovative we can be during this window, the better we're going to be at the end of it. But ultimately, life will go on. We will get out of this. There will be a day where we're not forced to shelter in place and airlines are not forced to leave middle seats open and we don't have to wear masks everywhere we go. that day will eventually come. There's all sorts of guesses on how long, but just keep in mind that this is temporary. And while you're in this situation, make the best of it. Like I was about 4 weeks into this. I'm a totally like extroverted. I think you guys know, like I love people. I get excited to go travel around and meet people in customer success, talk about customer success. I love this stuff. So being trapped at home isn't my comfort zone. My comfort zone is getting on an airplane and going somewhere, right? To do something. That's what really fires me up. So a few weeks ago, I was kind of struggling. I'm like, man, I'm really having a hard time. I just don't have the energy and the excitement for life that I had when I was able to get out of the house. And then I sat down and I had lunch with my son, who's doing homeschooling. And I made him mac and cheese, and I sat down and I sat there and I'm talking to him, and it's a Thursday afternoon or something, right? He would normally be in school. I would normally be working or gone or whatever. And it just dawned on me that what an amazing time this is. In some ways, these are going to be days that I look back on fondly. Horrible things are happening in the economy and the health and the amount of death that's coming from this. It's atrocious. But I am having lunch with my son more often than I used to. That's pretty special. You know, when I'm 90 years old on my deathbed, I'm going to be happy I got to make those days of mac and cheese and talk to him about the thing he likes most in Harry Potter or whatever we talked about, right? Like, these are really unique, amazing opportunities. These days are numbered, and this is actually priceless in certain regards. There's certain things that exist right now, and that's what I mean. Like, don't waste a good crisis. Take the positive that does exist, and there is some out there. There is. It's not as much as maybe normal, and it's not as easy to find as usual, but there are good things. There is positivity out there in the world, and there are going to be some amazing things that come out of this. And the more we can live in that mind space, I think the easier it is to endure, and it gets us more excited about what's coming. So don't confuse all of 2020 for COVID or all of life for COVID. It's not always going to be this way, but even while it is, it's actually pretty damn special at times.
That's a great point, Aaron. In fact, I just read a line yesterday, and I think that's going to be my mantra for this crisis. Over the long term, the future is decided by optimists. So anyone who's struggling with the crisis, just remember that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's a very well put line, Nilesh. One of the, and I think because we're coming to the end, so I'll have to wrap up with the last don't, which is don't give up, keep the spirits high. It is going to pass. It is temporary, like we, like Nilesh said, and like Aaron mentioned, and I think this is the crisis is testing us in every possible way. But I absolutely believe that it's also going to bring the best out of us. So let's stay together, get out of this together, and be positive and keep your spirits high for sure.
I'm with you. Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity to talk today, guys. It's great to see you. And thanks to everybody who attended and chimed in on the chat. This was fun.
Since we have a minute, let's take a couple of questions. We have a specific question around customer offboarding. Okay, so Somik says that we believe that a customer offboarding process should be just as good as our onboarding process. So if that is the need in such a crisis time, what are the do's of customer offboarding? That's a whole different.
I can spare a straight secret. If it really comes down to that, like if it really comes down to that, I will basically offer rather than offboarding them, you can. I don't know what technology, what product you're actually selling, but if you can offer them some sort of a billing pause, but sometimes it could be a huge cost at your end. So maybe you cannot offer them a billing cost because your own infrastructure expense could be a lot. But in that case, you can probably offer to either, sort of preserve the data, either in your servers if they are okay, or pass it back to them and tell them that whenever you're ready, you will not have to start from scratch, and we can, just switch on whenever you're ready, or whatever that arrangement could be. That's one way of offboarding. But Aaron, I'm sure you have more secrets there. But by the way, just a thought about customer offboarding, and I think that was great. Thank you for sharing. That's my learning for the day. Sorry, that's my alarm. Yeah.
Good point, around the offboarding and the importance of that being a frictionless experience, because a lot of customers leave and then they come back, right? And you want to make sure that you leave them with a good taste in their mouth. Maybe they could actually be a referral for you. And right now you're probably offboarding a lot of customers that aren't actually dissatisfied. They just don't have the capital to keep investing in your product or service. It's nothing personal. And so when that's the case, Boaz Mayer on a webinar, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, he said what they're doing is actually approaching it as a customer who pays us $0 is better than no customer at all. And they're playing the long game. And so they're hoping to hold on to customers however they can. So they must have the ability to do that. Not every company would, of course. I think it's really specific to the business, as you said, Puneet.
No, yeah. No, but great, really good point. I just don't seem to be able to turn my watch off. Cool. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Nilesh, if there are no more questions,
yeah, we can wrap up. Yep.
Sounds great. Well, hey, thanks again, guys.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, everyone, and stay tuned for more of Aaron and more of customers. Cheers. Thank you so much, Aaron. We really enjoyed it.